right, happy Friday to you and yours, and welcome back to our week-ending edition here at the Blockchain Report. Today is a Hollywood special show where we're going to be talking about the box office, Oscar season, and of course, Sydney Sweeney. And we're going to be joined by one of my personal favorite guests, entertainment journalist and TV writer John Lopez, as he helps us break down the massive shift we are seeing in Hollywood and what that means for the future of the industry. So stay tuned. We got a lot to talk about today, and you won't want to miss it. All that and more coming up on the Blockchain Report, your way right now. Gang, it's time for Tales from Hollywood, and joining us for this portion of our program today, we have a returning guest who is one of the sharpest minds in Hollywood writing today. This guy can break down industry chaos with the precision of a filmmaker and the wit of a critic. He's written for Vanity Fair, the LA Times, Grantland, and now he's shaping the future of storytelling inside the Writers Guild of America's AI Working Group, all the while creating some of the most compelling television out there today. Please give a big Blockchain Report welcome back to writer and entertainment journalist John Lopez, everybody. John, welcome back to the show, my man. How are you? It's good to have you back.
I'm very good. That is a hell of an intro, man. I hope I don't fall flat on my face. Sharpest minds in Hollywood. God, we're screwed if that's the case.
Yeah, the expectations have never been higher, but no pressure. We're here to have a good time. So we're just excited to have you back, John. The last conversation we had was so great. As I was telling you off air, it was one of the highest replayed segments we've had on the show. So the people wanted you, and we are delivering here today. So we're super excited to have you back.
Oh my
now,
God.
I know there's a lot going on in your world right now, John.
Yes.
You got a big article that just came out that I want to chat about a little bit. So really quick, just give us the short and skinny. What is this story about? What can we expect? We want to know more.
Well, if you haven't been going to the box office this fall, which you haven't, there has been a dearth of hits in Hollywood, and it's kind of scary. Like, I used to cover the box office many years ago, and I don't think I've ever seen a single stretch of time where so many star-driven movies just kind of fell flat on their face and didn't make anything resembling a profit. And I'm not even talking about One Battle After Another. I think last time I was on air, you talked about it, and you're like, oh, it didn't make that much money. And I said, actually, it'll be okay. But it wasn't, a huge, huge hit. That actually turned out to be one of the bigger hits of the fall. So everyone in Hollywood is kind of freaking out, going, oh my God, what do we do? What's like, people like, are movie theaters done? It kind of feels like that. So one of the editors at the Hollywood Reporter basically was talking to me and said, what do you think? What do we have to do about this? And I said, I don't know what to do about it, but I do know one thing. This Oscars might be the most important Oscars ever, if only to remind people that there are other movies aside from Wicked and, comic book films and Avatar coming up. Like, you can go to those movies. That's great. I'm glad that they make $1 billion. We all need the money. But if you don't go to the other movies, then movie theaters start shrinking up and going away like grass in the California sun. So I don't know. We went through every single would-be Oscar contender, and we kind of just thought about, like, what will get people's butts back in seats? Like, what's the problem here? Like, what reminds people of that cinematic experience of being in a dark room and laughing together and enjoying a film, like the thing that you can't do on your couch with Netflix. So that was kind of the article, and it's coming out in print, believe it or not. That thing still exists, and it might go online later this week.
Well, that sounds super interesting, because you're right. This has been an unusual year in the cinema business. I mean, I actually thought there was two reasons that cinema was going to come back, and those two reasons were Sydney Sweeney, but even that Christie movie she had, I think, was a monumental bomb. So it seems like it's really going around right now.
I mean, that's scary.
John, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say that's scary, because I was talking to an exec friend of mine, and he said it might be, like, percentage ratio one of the greatest failures of all time. And, like, Sydney Sweeney is the closest thing we have to a new movie star, her and Timothée Chalamet. So if Marty doesn't open his ping pong movie, we're like, that's the future of the industry. Like, what do we do if Timothée Chalamet and Sydney Sweeney can't open movies? We're kind of like, I don't know, like does Hollywood do movies become like opera, something you go to once every once in a while and like pay $50 or $60 for, and that's it? Like you can't run a business that way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great point. It's like, is cinema going to take up a wholly different place in our culture, like akin to, going to the opera, which I have no
Yeah.
interest in that, but like, is it only going to be big, big, big box office movies that are going to be worth the making and then in turn seeing? And I think, a big part of this question that everyone's wondering, and I'm so glad we have you here to chat about it, is people are wondering, like, this fall in the box office, is it because the movies just aren't good? Or is it something else? Like, you've seen the data, the trends for your
Yeah.
upcoming article, I would assume. Like, what's actually happening behind the scenes here? Was this a content problem, a marketing problem, or an audience behavior problem? Maybe something else entirely? What are you seeing?
I think it's a little of everything. I think it's kind of like a concatenate. It's like a 50 car pileup. There's a lot of things going on. Number one, the strikes. Like if you don't know about how movies are made, it takes like 2 to 3 years for a movie to get in the pipeline. So what we're seeing is the tail end of that work stoppage, which is what the writers and actors and directors were telling the studios. Like, if you let this drag on for 3 months, there's going to be a dearth of movies. Now we should be over that. That should be ending. So that's why this is a little anomalous. The other thing is,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I would say the movies, not that they weren't good, though I'll be honest, I did not see the Sydney Sweeney film, so how would I know? No one did. But I think that they were a lot of them kind of like smaller indie festival titles that are a little bit sadder and more depressing. And like, they're not scratching that itch that we go to the multiplex for. So I think the studios
Mm-hmm.
themselves need to be making more movies. Like, one of the problems is Warner Brothers, which normally, like, it's a huge studio. It's about to be bought, which is kind of terrifying. They would have more movies after one battle after another, but they're not releasing anything in December. Like, I cannot tell you how crazy that is. When I first started here, literally there were knife fights over release dates. Like, the calendar was too
Wow.
crowded. People would push movies because like there were three big movies coming out on one weekend. To leave December without a film release is kind of a scary thing, and there's some kind of weird financing chicanery that David Zaslav is doing in order to make Warner Brothers look like a better. It has something to do with the fucking, sorry, no offense, but it has to do with the stock price, like wanting to keep it high for this acquisition, so they don't want to have to write off the
Yeah.
negative costs of a movie in the fourth quarter. I'm like, really? Is that how we're greenlighting and scheduling movies now based on fourth quarter accounting tricks? Like, that is not a
Jeez.
healthy business. So there's that. And then finally,
No.
I was talking to my agent, and this is the thing, because as I did the piece, I just kind of like asked people, like, what do you think? Like, what is going on here? And my agent said, honestly, it's social media in the sense that there used to be a set strategy for how you got people to hear about movies. You bought a bunch of TV, you had people do the Today Show and the Tonight Show and Colbert, and it got out into the ethosphere, and people knew about it. People wanted to see it. These days, first off, late night shows are getting canceled left and right. Sometimes for politics, sometimes for whatever reasons. And then you
Mm-hmm.
can't get the same swath of people in social media. It's not as easy. And I have a pet theory, which I don't know if is true. I think the marketing gurus at Hollywood studios are maybe a little long in the tooth, and maybe they don't know how to reach Gen Z
Mm.
and the millennials and the people who need to be going to movies. Because movies have always been the thing that, like, before you have kids, that's what you do on a weeknight. You go see a movie.
Yeah.
Like from 14 to 30, that is your life or part of your life. And if we can't reach that
Yeah.
audience, if everyone's just on TikTok all the time, movies go away. It becomes an old person's thing. It literally does become like going to the opera or going to a play or going to Broadway or something like that, where only people who, are cashing out their 401ks can afford to buy the tickets.
Right. I mean, if you look at episodes of Seinfeld, they were always going to the frickin' movies in Seinfeld as
Yeah.
30-year-olds, and you're not even really seeing that now. Like, yeah, it used to be, oh, Friday night, let's go see the new flick. Nobody does that
Yeah.
anymore the same way. But part of it has to be, I think, because of social media and, with AI and everything, I think people are yearning for authenticity. And like it just
Yeah.
like and that's why like I think production value and stuff doesn't matter the same way, but it also like that's why I think you're right. I think traditional marketing is long in the tooth and they're not realizing you have to take a wholly different
Yeah.
approach to get
Yeah.
people's eyeballs today. Like I kind of think about so Sydney Sweeney, right? We talked about her
Right.
briefly. She had this big Christie movie, ton of marketing, flopped horribly. But then you think like what Sydney Sweeney movie did really well? Well, she had
Right.
that rom-com with what's
Yeah.
his face, anyone but you, which they kind of just scandalized to are they hooking up on set and ran
Right.
with that, ended up making 10 times I think what the movie cost budget-wise. So it's
Yeah.
like it's a wholly different atmosphere that's based in social media and scandal and salaciousness, and it's just so different now because you have these like tens or hundreds of $1 million budgets built into these movies, so that not only do they have to make up the cost of the film, but then the marketing budgets like that usually, and then multiples
Double.
on top.
Double.
It's just crazy.
I mean,
Double,
that's
yeah,
the thing
it's
is,
absolutely crazy.
if you want to promote a movie, like a wide release movie, and that's generally seen as something that's released on more than 2,000 screens, you have to spend money. So when you look at what a movie costs, it's not just the budget, it is the marketing budget. And the marketing budget has been getting huger and huger and huger. I personally do think there's a little bit of a generation problem in Hollywood. I think a lot of the people here, not unlike the US government, are way too old. They should have retired. They
Yeah.
should have kicked it in. Like this is a young person's game. Like movies have to be relevant. They have to speak to the age and to the moment. And frankly, they're not. Like they're trying to put Sydney Sweeney and people in these things that aren't scratching the itch for this new generation. And Gen Z and millennials are a little more discerning, precisely because
Yeah.
everything, it's about the rating system, right? Like when you go on Google Eats or not Google Eats, Google, and you look at a restaurant, oh, if it's
Right.
not a 4.7 or above, you don't fucking eat there. And that attitude has come to
Mm-hmm.
movies. And the way you fight that, I would say, is one,
Yeah.
quality, which Hollywood is kind of forgetting. I think the rush to AI is kind of like putting that on the back burner. But two,
Mm-hmm.
what is the story? What is the thing? What is the emotional connection? I think you're right. Like Sydney Sweeney, oh, maybe she's going out with Glenn Powell. That suddenly becomes a thing. That's a reason to go see the movie. So we need to give people reasons to go see movies that are beyond just, hey, here's another here's the fourth Rush Hour with Jackie Chan teaming up with a spork or something. You really got to like kind of like
Yeah.
meet Gen Z and millennials where they are. And I think the studios are generally are getting too old. And I think they need to empower some of the younger generation, and they need to build up the likes of Timothy Chalamet and the likes of Sydney Sweeney. I really do hope the ping pong movie, Marty Supreme, does well. I've seen it. It's a really good movie.
Mm-hmm.
He's a fantastic actor. I mean, he's the closest thing we have to Brando for this generation. And,
Mm-hmm.
he makes a story everywhere he goes. He's kind of part of the thing. He knows how to he knows how to tap into that. And by the way, that is not a new thing. Like that's what movies used to do. That's what the 50s and 60s and 70s were about. You create that magic and that glamour of going to the red carpets, of going to Cannes, going to the film festivals. And I think for whatever reason, we got so hyped up on IP like Marvel movies and comic book movies that we forgot that a little bit of this really does come down to the people involved in the filmmaking. You can generate that. It's just how do you reach people? How do you get that? And are you relevant? Which I think Hollywood studios are on the verge of becoming totally irrelevant.
Yeah, and I think a big part of this is the star system. We used to
Yeah.
be about the movie stars, and it used to be that the movie made the movie star. But now it almost seems to feel like you make yourself into a public figure and you become the movie star
Yeah.
first, and then that is ultimately what makes the movie. So it kind of feels like it's been switched a little bit given today's social media, and you can check in on your favorite
Yeah.
actors and stuff all the time and kind of come along for the ride with them. And people seem to like that and they care about that. We're all looking for reasons to care. And that seems to be one of them. And another thing that people aren't really considering right now, and your article definitely ties into, is the weak fall box office and how that's going to affect the upcoming or the current Oscar season. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping you can maybe just walk us through how awards buzz works when fewer people have actually shown up for the movies in theaters. Like, does that change the entire rhythm of Oscar campaigning? Like, how is that playing
I
out right now?
I think it makes it more critical than ever. Like Oscar campaigning is always a weird thing. I used to cover it for Vanity Fair, and you're basically targeting a subset of voters, which is the Academy. And they're a very specific voting group that lives generally in Los Angeles, some in New York, some in London. And you're trying to get them excited so that they nominate stuff. Now, they're human beings just like anyone else. So if they're not already going out to the movies, which is kind of a crime and a shame if you're working in this industry, but if they're not going out there, then those movies kind of die on the vine and they don't, everything gets constricted. I do think that this will make it harder for them to figure out what what to nominate. And that's kind of why I did my article. I was like, listen, these are the movies that feel like they're showing off the crafts, that are showing off what Hollywood can do that's different than the rest of the world. And just nominate them. These Oscars are just important. You just need to remind people. You need to get them excited to see movies again. And like the Oscars started as a marketing stunt. That's literally what they were back in the 20s. And it was a great idea. It worked for like over 100 years. So I think they just really need to embrace that. Do whatever you can to like get a campaign going. Apparently, Timothy Chalamet did something with A24 where he broadcast his marketing meeting, and it was kind of like a little thing, and it
I
got
saw
people
that.
talking. Yeah, listen, if you're
Yeah.
talking about it, that's good. If it makes you want to go see a movie where he plays a ping pong player who like literally gets taken from the hell to below trying to get to his ping pong tournament, great. Go see the movie. Make it feel like an event.
Right.
Whatever you can do. At this point, there is no wrong answer. There is only old habits that I think are dying, and I hope die. I hope it gives us an opportunity. I hope that the Oscars remind everyone that like going to see a movie in a theater is a different experience. I think one of the
Yeah.
big culprits, actually, which I didn't mention, is this whole, and this is what the movie theaters say all the time, the window, right? Like it's going to be on Netflix in 20 days. Why should I go see it? Why should I go
Right.
see it in theaters? And I don't know what you do about that, but there is
hmm
definitely a difference between seeing a movie in a movie theater and on your Netflix queue. And the prime
Yeah.
example I think I used in the article is Frankenstein, the Guillermo del Toro movie. I mean, Guillermo del Toro is an incredible artist, man. He makes these incredibly lush, beautiful sets. His production design is incredible. Like, no one makes a movie like Guillermo del Toro. But who's financing that movie? Netflix. How does it get seen in a theater?
hmm
Well, if you don't live in New York and LA, you're shit out of luck, man. It's playing at like a handful of theaters.
Right.
It's, it's there for a few weeks so that Netflix can qualify for the Oscars. But I saw it both in the theaters and I saw it on streaming, and it doesn't compare. Like when you're on your couch, you're
hmm
pausing, you're getting up, you're going to the bathroom. I mean, this is stuff I think we talked about last time. But especially with a movie like that, the color is incredible. The scope, the scale, the feeling of being with the audience. Like we really got to highlight movies that kind of remind people that that's what you're going out for, that that is a fun thing to do, and that there is a problem with being a little bit cloistered. Listen, I love chilling on my couch. Everyone loves Netflix and chill, whatever that means for you. But you need to change a pace. You need something to do on the weekend. And I think that gives me hope that if we can remind this generation, which grew up in COVID, which grew up like doing so much on screens, that there is something to go out for and something to have fun with, that you know, that Hollywood isn't dead yet, hopefully.
Yeah, it makes me wonder like what the solution is for this, right? Because with the Netflix and the Hulus or whatever, people have begun to prioritize convenience over the idea of maybe spectacle, right? And that's what it's all about. This movie, going to movies was a spectacle, but now it's kind of saturated or maybe watered down a little bit because I have a 65-inch TV at home. I can turn off my lights. And to me, like, that's good enough. And I don't have to leave and I don't have to pay whatever $25 for a movie ticket. Now, when I grew up, they were like $6 at the matinee.
Yeah.
So affordability, I think, might be part of it. How do you think we get people back into the theaters? Is it, I've seen like, I think I saw it was in Asia, they were showing like Twister or something and they injected like wind into the theater and they had like, there was another thing where there were dogs and they released dogs down the middle of the thing. And I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, do theaters need to be going to these new lengths now to get people back in the seats because just sitting and watching just isn't good enough anymore?
I mean, part of me is terrified at that prospect, but also part of me is like whatever gets butts in seats. I don't think you need to
Yeah.
release packs of wild dogs into movie theaters, so that's certainly a novel strategy.
That was an extreme.
Um,
Yeah.
I do think affordability is I think that is a real issue because like you go to a movie, if like you want to take kids out to the movie theaters, it's like $100 plus $100 for a babysitter. Not a lot of people can afford
Yeah.
that. So I think there needs to be some form of pricing discrimination where, hey, if you want to see it opening weekend, if you're willing to shell out, it costs a little bit more. There's a little bit of a problem in that most of the contracts between the studios and the theater owners have a traditional waterfall structure. So any negotiation over that is like just a whole big deal. It's like even though you can look at box office revenues and they get split 50-50 between theaters and studios generally, the way they're actually structured is a little bit more like the opening weekend, the studio gets 90%, every
Mm,
movie, every studio is different. And it kind of like, trickles down so that if a movie has staying power, the theater gets more and more money. But generally, if a movie pops and it's over, the theater doesn't get its hugest share. It makes that up with like popcorn buckets, merchandise. I have to say, I kind of admire that AMC guy. He's a little crazy and wacky, but like, man, he is shilling those popcorn buckets, dude. And it worked for Wicked. My wife, my wife got two popcorn buckets made out of tin, and I'm like, why do we need an Elphaba and a Glinda popcorn bucket? And then she told me to shut up if I wanted to stay married.
Smart man, smart man. Yeah.
Yeah,
When in doubt, keep your mouth shut. I've had to learn that the hard
exactly.
way. Now, John, you've written about Hollywood for years. Is this fall box office drop that we're seeing just part of the normal kind of post-strike chaos, or does it maybe represent a bigger shift in how the business works? I mean, I'm kind of curious as to whether studios are quietly panicking behind the scenes or if they're actually quietly adjusting right now. What are you seeing from your seat at the table?
It's listen, movies ebb and flow. If you make great movies, if you make movies people want to see, it does bring them back to the theaters. I remember there was a freak out about, right after COVID, oh, are people still going to go to movie theaters? And then Dune and Timothy Chalamet brought them back out. And
Hmm.
that's great. I do think this is a little more severe. It's kind of like climate change, right? Like there are
Hmm.
cycles, but every once in a while you start noticing, oh, it's getting hotter on average. It's getting colder on average. It's getting
Yeah.
wetter or drier. And right now I'd say on average, it's getting harder to open a movie. You can't just muscle a movie over because it has Sydney Sweeney in it. You have to do something a little bit more,
Hmm.
something to break through the noise. And I think that is a long-term trend. I think
Right.
studios are aware of it. I don't think they have a solution for it necessarily, but I also think there is a possibility of a little bit of a bounce back. I think before
Hmm.
COVID, there were too many multiplexes made. There were too many screens. That's something everyone in Hollywood kind of acknowledges, and it's sad. I
Yeah.
like a lot of these theaters. I like going out, and maybe there are other uses for them, but it needed to trim back. But there's always the threat of it trimming back too much. And I think that there is an opportunity that will be lost if Hollywood doesn't adjust its ways, if it doesn't learn how to market through social media, if it doesn't let the youth take the reins and like make movies that are more relevant to the cultural moment. I love Bruce Springsteen, but I don't know that we needed another biopic of a musician. It's Hollywood.
Yeah.
Hollywood's habit has always been to follow the pack. And the truth is, what
Hmm.
makes a successful movie is thinking ahead of the pack. Where is the puck going to go?
Right.
Look at James Cameron in Avatar. People made fun of that dude for making Smurfs with CGI. Everyone was like, that's insane. I mean, here's the guy who made the Titanic, right? With the highest grossing movie of all time. And people were still like, I don't know, this is a little weird for me. But he did a
Yeah.
good enough job. And now there is a fucking theme park in Orlando, Disney Safari Adventure that has an Avatar ride. Like you
I
can't
went
do
to
that
one in
if you don't come up with
Singapore.
interesting ideas. Oh, really? There's one in Singapore?
Yeah, they have a
Jesus.
whole. They have an outfit in Singapore where they have like life-size Na'vi people and stuff. I was in
Jesus.
Singapore a couple like 2 years ago, and we're like, "What the hell is this?" And it was like $40, and we walked through, and they had this whole exhibit that was basically like you're in
Uh-huh.
the whole land of Avatar. It
But
was
Avatar,
weird.
right.
My girlfriend wanted to see it, so I
Sure.
acquiesced.
Yeah, stay married, man.
But
Stay with your girlfriend.
right. It brings up an interesting point, though, right? Like, we're seeing legacy systems try to run the same playbook
Right.
unsuccessfully. And this seems to happen over and over again. But you're seeing like the James Camerons, the Star Wars, the George Lucas, like those guys who are coming up with these wholly different things that
Yeah.
end up being massively successful. Why do you think these legacy systems are so apprehensive toward trying new things when the traditional methods right now clearly aren't working?
Well, I would say if the digital methods keep falling so flat on their face, maybe they will. That's like the one spark of hope for me is this moment reminds me, or not reminds me, I wasn't alive then, but I'm a student of Hollywood history. It reminds me
Sure.
of the end of the old studio system. Back around the era of Cleopatra, when Fox had to sell off its studio lot, when they were making a lot of the traditional movies made the way that they'd always been made since, the end of World War II, and they started failing. And Hollywood was dealing with television at the time. They're like, oh my God, this crazy thing that's small and in your home, no one's going to go to movies anymore because they can just watch it at home. Like the same arguments we're saying today, they had back then.
Right.
And Hollywood went bigger, and which is part of the solution. That's when we got like things like CinemaScope or VistaVision, which is what PTA shot One Battle After Another on. And it was like, oh, let's try
Mm-hmm.
everything. But what really saved Hollywood's butt was letting a new generation come up with stories that felt authentic and felt real. That's when we got THX 1138 from a little guy named George Lucas. When you got Mean
Mm-hmm.
Streets from a little guy named Martin Scorsese. And then when this young kid, Steven Spielberg, made a crazy TV movie called Duel, and suddenly he got to do Jaws. Like, this is the thing, that this is the way, to quote Groku
Mm-hmm.
or whatever his name is, not Grok, Groku,
Yeah.
whoever
Yeah.
Baby Yoda is. I can never remember the names. Like, you let that new
Yeah.
generation. Oh, I think my cat might be coming in. My cat has something to say here. Sorry, this is
Oh,
a
I got one
recurring
too. I get
threat
it.
whenever I do an interview with you guys. My cat has something to say, but I think
Yeah.
that allowing these new voices is what saved Hollywood. This is new Hollywood. There's that great book, Easy Rider, Raging Bull, about that revolution, about the new
Mm-hmm.
filmmaking techniques, about the new stories, about things that spoke to that generation, that kind of broke through the noise and made modern Hollywood what it is. So, yep, there she
Yeah.
is. So I
Hey,
think that's I
buddy.
think that's what we're in search of for this moment. And I think there's, like I said, much like a lot of America, there is an aging crisis where the people making the decisions and spending the money are just a little too long in the tooth. I mean, good for
Yeah.
them. They had success. They're Oscar voters. Go have the finger foods and the free booze and all that kind of stuff. Go do that for the
Mm-hmm.
Oscar season and vote on the movies.
Yeah.
But like start taking bets on newer, younger people, on weirder movies, and weirder ideas. Like
Yeah.
Netflix is always going to answer the question of what is like the kind of average thing you want. So you as a filmmaker,
Mm-hmm.
as a movie maker, you have to do something different. Like
Right.
audiences are smart. We get tired of the same thing over and
Mm-hmm.
over again. And that's the thing that will save us from the quote, AI doom or from, bad markets. And frankly, lower ticket prices. Figure out a way to do it. Because if, the box office fall or if the stock market falls, if we hit a recession, guess what people loved doing during the Great Depression? They loved going to
Right.
movies.
Movies. Right. Yeah. They definitely need to switch up the structure of that to fit the modern times. Because, like you said,
Yeah.
between if you have a family of four, movie tickets, it's like $80 with popcorn and stuff, and then it's 150, $200 to go to a movie.
Yeah.
Just insane. It's insane. So I could understand people's apprehension to going to the theaters these days. Now, back to your article, without spoiling the whole thing.
Yeah.
During your research for it, was there anything that surprised you? Like, was there a number or a trend or an insight that made you go, okay, I think that's actually the story here? Like, I'd be curious as to what you learned through your research for this story.
It wasn't so, I mean, the box office is the box office. So it's kind of like the surprising
Mm-hmm.
thing was how little money was made. The surprising thing I heard from talking to a buddy was just the ratio of cost to failure on the Sydney Sweeney movie. I mean, that was truly surprising because
Yeah,
she's considered like a new star. But the thing
yeah,
that I think surprised me as I talked about it with my editor was this youth angle. Like, how do you create that sense of FOMO, that urgency, that need to see a movie? Like, how do you, because like you can't
mm-hmm.
have a world where everything is an event movie or people only go to see certain event movies like Wicked or Avatar. You kind of like need to build some excitement over these smaller mid-budget movies. Like there's like an
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem to filmmaking. What you want, I think, or
Yeah,
what Hollywood can hope for is a world where people look at the movieplex and see a variety of different types of movies, some comedies, some dramas at various budget prices with various types of stories. And you can say, hey, I got to go see that. Right now, what we have is this
mm-hmm.
brave new world of, all right, I'll go out for Wicked. That's in 6 weeks. Great. I'll buy a popcorn bucket. All right, 6 weeks later, I'll go out for Avatar. And when's Dune 3 coming out? Like, we got to figure out a way to kind of like help these other movies get up. And I think that was kind of like my moment of revelation of just like I think the people at the top are a little too old. Like they need to delegate some authority. They
Yeah,
need to let some younger kids take a swing at these things because there's exciting stories.
yeah,
When you're young,
yeah.
you
No,
I was
absolutely.
listening to this interview with James Cameron, and he talked about like being a young filmmaker and making Terminator and making Terminator 2 and making The Abyss. Like he had something to say and he's mellowed and we get Avatar and that's all great and everything like that. But we need to be supporting that next generation. It is again an
Yeah.
evolutionary, a generational thing. And I think that much like the rest of America, I think the kids are feeling left behind by the boomers. They're feeling like the boomers
Yeah.
are just sitting there and basically collecting checks and not taking any risks, but it is the youth who take the risks.
Yeah.
So empower them a little bit.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And something I just thought of too, I wonder, like, in today's world, we're so divided because everybody has an opinion and everybody is able to
Right.
express their opinion through social media on a mass scale, right? And back in the day, there was an element of mystery around movie stars a little bit. Like you kind of
Right.
heard maybe what they were up to, but like not everybody had phones, so you knew they were living a movie star life.
Yeah.
But with mystery comes a certain element of intrigue. So part of me wonders, like, for Sydney Sweeney kind of being the perfect example. She was riding high, she had this huge hit, Anyone
Yeah.
But You or whatever. And then this jeans ad comes out, and all of a sudden there's this negative rhetoric towards her that was not seen before. How much of an
Right.
influence do you think that personal, opinions or beliefs of the actors, directors, actresses, whatever, has on the ability or the want of the masses to like actually see these films? Because I'm sure there are people who've been like, "Oh, Sydney Sweeney, that white little bitch. Like, I'm not gonna go see her movie about boxing." Like, does that
Right.
play into, you think, people's want to see films and stuff in a different way that maybe it had in past years?
I mean, there has to be some kind of effect. Listen, I am not a publicist, and thank God I'm not a publicist because that is a brutal job, and I would never have to want to worry about the public image of another person. I can barely worry about my own public image. But yeah, I think
Mm-hmm.
that is kind of like the complex math equation of celebrity these days, which is on the one hand, you're being pressured to do content and output to, ride the YouTube algorithm, ride the TikTok algorithm. But at what point do you become overexposed? Like how much of that is a good thing versus how much of that kind of creates these weird stories and impressions about you that aren't necessarily accurate? Like, listen, Sydney
Mm-hmm.
Sweeney, I mean, I don't know, like that's just something movie stars did, star in jeans ads. Like, I don't know. I get the controversy behind it, and I actually don't think it's entirely
Mm-hmm.
baseless. There's this weird thing with eugenics that this country just doesn't want to face. But I also
Yeah.
feel like that is just like something that she did. Sydney Sweeney's clearly out there hustling to make a dime. I think she gave an interview once
Mm-hmm.
where she talked about how the movie star salaries are not what they used to be. And so for her, when you
Right.
make it as a star, there's this expectation, oh my God, I am basically my own little cottage industry. I'm supporting family,
Mm-hmm.
friends, publicist,
Right.
stylists, like one movie star. You can't think of them as just like a person anymore, even though they are, and that sucks to have to abandon your personhood, but they really are a business.
Right.
They are an entire brand, an
Yeah.
entity. And so Sydney Sweeney's like that entity used to make tons of money. If I had been a movie star 10 years ago, she'd be cashing in paychecks, she'd get profit participation with movies. That doesn't really happen for them anymore. So she's looking at every angle, and people used to do jeans ads. I think that
Yeah.
that's just uncontrollable. I don't know what you do. I don't know how you avoid controversy other than like everyone in our world needs to chill the fuck out and maybe get off social media now and then. I think just
Yeah.
this is on a human level. There is a degree to which we are finding ourselves driven by a kind of feedback system that incentivizes outrage and anger and is raising everyone's blood pressure. Like I
Mm-hmm.
have to be on Twitter, or I had to be on Twitter because of, I do journalism stuff and all that. But like I take breaks, man. Like I removed the app from my phone because I realized like it was making me unfocused. I was losing the ability to just enjoy my life. And I still use it, but I
Mm-hmm.
kind of limit it to a desktop. I kind of limit when I go and post and how much time I'm going to spend on it because I don't feel good inside when I do it. And I think all of America needs to take that chill pill because then you get something like Sydney Sweeney doing a jeans ad, which she's going to do, and suddenly everyone is
Right.
outraged about it. You know, I again, I don't know what Hollywood can do to control that, uh, but it definitely has an impact. And it's just like
Yeah.
figure out what the best way to ride that wave. It is the perennial problem of a movie star. How do you ride the wave of fame without losing your soul? And Timothy Chalamet is doing a good job right now. So listen, more props to that guy.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet might be the Jesus
Yeah.
Christ movies need right now, for all I know. Not to put too much on his shoulders.
Yeah, he's certainly navigating it well, and we've seen other stars kind of fall from grace. One that comes to mind immediately is Chris Pratt. He was everybody's favorite kind of chubby, comedic, fat guy on Parks and Rec. He got into the limelight, became this big star, and then he breaks up with his wife, and they have, I think, a kid who's got some issues. He marries the Schwarzenegger daughter-in-law or whatever, and he's kind of really Christian now, and everybody's like, I don't like Chris Pratt anymore. And it's just because people got wind of some of his personal stuff, which you would hope doesn't really matter, and his stuff really isn't even that bad. He's just Christian, and he broke up with.
Well, I mean, listen,
it's
full disclosure, I wrote on the Terminal List, right? And that is Chris Pratt's show. And I can testify he's a super, super nice guy. Like, whatever my politics and his politics are, he's a very nice guy. But again, I think that speaks to the age where everything he does suddenly gets looked under that microscope. And, whatever his opinions are, everyone has a right to their opinions. He certainly didn't impose them on anyone during production. He didn't make anyone feel left out. And I think that I think the more you focus on being a movie star and just kind of like your art and your craft, the less this all falls away. And hopefully we as a society get a little bit more chilled out overall. I think we are, again, I don't think it is endemic to who we are. Listen, America has always been fractious. You go back to the 19th century, you go history lesson here, the know-nothings, the gold, the silver party. I mean, people were beating each other in bars over currency exchange rates. Monetary policy in the 19th century got Americans riled up. We're a very rileable people. But I think right now we are in this weird relationship with technology where it creates a feedback loop. It makes us very angry about things. And certain unsavory characters, I won't name names, who know how to gin that up and how to profit from it politically and financially, they have every incentive to keep stoking the outrage, to keep making everyone mad.
Right.
And I think we just need to learn to prioritize what counts and chill out a little bit. And I wish that politics wasn't our soap opera. I wish that we let soap operas be our soap operas. You want to get outraged about something, get outraged about a plot turn. Policy about whether or not people get health care, that should be a really boring thing. I want my politicians to be boring again. Really, really boring.
Yeah.
I want all the nerds in school to go and have to work and slave 50-hour days to come up with dry financial documents that make my healthcare affordable. However they do it. You know what I mean? But again, we're all living in this age of outrage, and we're directing our very justifiable pain over affordability and corrupt and inefficient structures at the wrong people. You know what I mean? Get angry at the people who are actually causing impact and harm on your life, and vote and educate yourself about the issues, about what you want the world to look like. Channel that rage as opposed to screaming at Sydney Sweeney for a jeans ad. It's whatever. I mean, I think I think eugenics is a weird thing in America. I think it's something that we haven't faced. If you know anything about the history of eugenics, fun fact, California, of all places, gave the Nazis the idea to separate people based on genes. California's sterilization policy in the 1920s was horrifying. I know. Oh my God, we didn't know that.
Really? That's crazy.
Yeah. So learn about, but here's another thing, learn about history. I mean, I don't know what happened with us, but we got all so ahistorical. People keep repeating the same mistakes. Anyway, this is going far afield of Hollywood. But point being, I agree with you. Hopefully people let movie stars be movie stars. Hopefully movie stars let themselves be movie stars and get us excited to go see a film at the theater.
Yeah. And make politicians boring again. We're here for it.
Exactly.
Let's save the drama for the movies. That's what it's
exactly.
We
do it. That's what we do best.
Right? Let's let people like you do their job and write the drama for us so that we can experience it from a viewer's point of view and not have to be experiencing it in our pocketbooks or our government regulations or whatever. I'm not here for that drama. I'm here for the drama that I can watch for 2 hours, leave, and then that's it, and I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So got enough drama in my life as is. All right, so John, we got 2 more stories here about what's going on in Hollywood in different aspects, and I'm excited to get your take on it. So hang 10. I'm going to read the story, and we're going to come back and jam about it. Sound good?
Sounds
All right,
good.
let's do it. So Hollywood just turned into a custody battle, and Warner Brothers Discovery is the child that everyone suddenly wants full-time. Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix all submitted bids, some for pieces of the company, some for the whole enchilada, officially kicking off the biggest studio auction since someone said please buy MGM. Now the bids are non-binding, they're vague, and extremely first round of The Bachelor-esque. But one way or another, whoever wins this thing will reshape movies, TV, and streaming for the next decade. Paramount, run by David Ellison, is the only one trying to buy the entire Warner Brothers Discovery portfolio. HBO, Max, CNN, TNT, Food Network, all of it. Like someone putting every single item from the grocery store into their cart all at once. Comcast and Netflix only want the studio and streaming arm, which means the cable channels would have to be spun off like some kind of unwanted luggage. And behind the scenes, everyone's wondering if Saudi Arabia or other Middle Eastern funds are quietly financing one of these bids, because apparently every major Hollywood deal now needs a sovereign wealth fund cameo. Either way, this sale is going to reshape the entire entertainment industry. Consolidation is back, streaming is shrinking, and everyone's trying to figure out which massive corporation will control Batman, Harry Potter, HBO, Food Network, and whatever is left of CNN. Hollywood used to have power players. Now it's just a handful of megacorps wrestling each other for brands they don't even know what to do with. We're bringing John back. John, as someone who's worked inside major studios and also covered Hollywood from the journalism side, how big of a creative earthquake is it when giants like Paramount, Comcast, and Netflix all line up to buy a legacy shop like Warner Brothers Discovery? Like, what does that ripple look like for writers, showrunners, and the kinds of stories that are actually getting greenlit?
It just sucks. I mean, Hollywood is the loser in this. The last time this happened, Fox bought Disney. I mean, great, we can put the X-Men into a Marvel film, woo-hoo. But if you're trying to sell original stories, if you're trying to get a movie made, that's one less studio making movies. You know, we already touched on it before you read that story, that part of the reason Warner Brothers isn't releasing a Hollywood movie is to make its stock look more attractive for an acquisition. It's kind of like, what is your actual business? You're not actually releasing movies, you're playing games to kind of goose the stock price. You know, between the three, I wish I knew which one was best. I think they're all bad. They're all the worst case scenario for Hollywood, because it just means less jobs, less movies, less opportunities, less of a market. It's consolidation. I personally talked to some of my AI buddies who are making billions in AI, and I was like, can one of you just buy these studios? Like, I know you're evil AI companies and you're going to like destroy Hollywood, but like, at least first buy Warner Brothers and keep it around. Because the problem is when there's corporate consolidation like this, the ability to do something fun and interesting gets markedly less. You know, because you've got publicly traded companies trying to goose stock prices. You know, it trickles down to the creative in terms of like what is considered a safe risk, what's not considered a safe risk. You know, Warner Brothers is only in this position because David Zaslav, you know, was president of a dying enterprise, Discovery, and he latched on to the studio, which, by the way, one of the most powerful, successful, busy studios in the history of Hollywood. Also, one of the truly, like, Warner Brothers is the factory floor of this industry. Like, that lot is always busy. They're always filming stuff on it. So Zaslav basically tried to attach Discovery and kind of leech off of it. And he wanted to play studio head, but he didn't actually want to do it. And it kind of like impacted Warner Brothers Studios. Like, look at it. They're making less movies. They shelved Coyote versus Acme. I mean, good God, Warner Brothers is shelving a Looney Tunes. Like, Looney Tunes is their core IP. They should be building that up. They should be turning that into theme parks. What are they doing shelving a movie? It's only because he wanted to sell it and he wanted to make a stock. He wanted to make a profit off of, you know, stock arbitrage. So I just, it's a sad thing. Obviously, listen, maybe the Saudis, I mean, listen, you know, obviously I'm not going to get into the politics of Saudi Arabia because good Lord, that's a battlefield. But why are the Saudis trying to partner with someone? Just buy it on their own. Let there be another studio chief making gambles. Like, God bless
Can
David
I jump
Ellison.
in here?
Yeah.
We got Victor's interest. He's a resident cinephile, by the way, so he's accredited. What do you got, Victor?
Well, out of the three, I think Comcast would, in my opinion, be the best one. Just I feel like they would keep the Warner Brothers studio alive because, you know, it's Comcast Universal. I don't know. I feel like Netflix would just use it to do with its Netflix shows and
Yeah.
just rebrand everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
And with
Netflix is, by
Paramount,
the
I
way, I think
mean,
Netflix, I don't think they're
go
serious.
for
I
it.
think they're
Sorry.
trying to drive up the stock price. Sorry.
Hmm.
Sorry, Victor, I cut you off. I wanted to hear.
No, 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 you're good. Yeah, I'm just saying that I think out of my, I mean, all of them are bad, but I think if it were up to me, I would pick Comcast Universal just because I feel like they would be.
Yeah.
They already have some partnership, right, with like the theme parks with Warner Brothers, so they would just kind of expand on it. But
Yeah.
regardless, any of these three are bad. Like people are gonna lose jobs. It's gonna be awful.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
speaking of
I
losing
think,
jobs, guys, go ahead, John, please.
oh yeah, yeah. No, I think there's a little bit, it's a little bit of a fake out here because the way politics is, this is a huge merger. It's going to have to get cleared by government regulatory bodies, specifically the FTC, because of all the cable channels involved. So currently, I think the only realistic option is Warner Brothers. If Netflix could somehow buy it, I think it would um, be very bad for Hollywood because they'd probably end up just shuttering the studio in the long run. They might say they're going to keep it alive. I don't really believe that. That's not what their business is. I think that Paramount, like yes, it makes strategic sense and that they get to merge like streaming services and all this kind of stuff. But I also think in the long run, it just loses jobs. I think, unfortunately, the government has picked who it wants to be. I mean, freaking Trump tweeted it. He wants it to be Paramount. And I think the only thing that slows this down is if state attorney generals file antitrust, anti-merger actions against it, which they should, because this isn't like this isn't like a smaller competitor getting eaten up by a larger competitor. This is two of the oldest studios, two of the largest studios, two of the main buyers in Hollywood getting merged together. And I don't think there's any good outcome for the industry for if you like art, if you like movies, if you like TV shows. I don't think there's a great outcome to the story, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I'm thinking like with Trump, I mean, it's like I feel like he wouldn't allow Comcast or Netflix to buy it
No,
anyways. So he
he
already
hates
said
them.
he would allow it if it's Paramount. So even if Warner Brothers decides to go with Comcast or Netflix, they're kind of tied to Paramount already.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I really think
In
Netflix is just
Trump's,
trying to drive up the price.
yeah,
Sorry.
that makes sense. In Trump's very small defense, though, I think I read that he really wants Paramount to do it because does Larry Ellison own Paramount? Am I
Yeah.
remembering that correctly?
Well,
Yeah, he really wants another Rush Hour movie, which I think we're all here for. I love Chris Tucker. I could never get enough. Jackie Chan still does his own stunts, and he's like 100. So that might be a good thing that comes out of it. But I
let
guess
the
for me,
Saudis
guys,
just
the
buy
really
Warner
big
Brothers
thing-
outright. They'll make the Rush Hour movie
Right?
for him.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know
Right, I
why
don't
the
think
Saudis
anybody
feel like they
wants-
need to partner with anyone.
Maybe the optics are bad. Like you think Live Golf, Saudi's not doing great. They just threw a bunch of
Listen.
money at it, and people aren't really watching it.
I know. Who knows? I don't really think there's a good answer. I think at the end of the day, it'll be a long, drawn out battle, unless it gets drawn out so long by state attorney general suing that Trump or whoever replaces him loses in 2028, and you get a Democrat president who actually appoints an FTC that actually enforces antitrust. It'll probably end up with Paramount. And I will say, in David Ellison's defense, he loves movies. He's been doing Skydance. He's wanted to play Hollywood for a long time. He's been here for a while. So hopefully he will make more movies. I still don't think that there is a world in which Warner Brothers disappearing into another corporate parent is a good thing. I think it's just really sad. I also think it's lost value. Like I like there
Yeah.
so many incredible properties, so much you could do. There is so much potential in that studio. David Zaslav ran it into the ground. Like he truly is one of the worst Hollywood studio chiefs we've ever had. And I think anyone who's smart, anyone young, what I tried to get a buddy of mine who has billions from an AI company, I was like, please buy this and install someone under 40 as a studio chief and see what happens.
Yeah.
Like that is something incredible. Who
Yeah.
who knows what could happen there? It's a risk, but hey, you guys apparently are going to rule the world in 10 years, so it's a risk you can afford. That was my wish. I don't know. I
Yeah.
doubt that's going to happen.
And kind of a weird example of that, this is maybe on the more extreme edge. You kind of look at the most recent presidential election. And, Trump has credited Barron Trump with pretty much springboarding his entire social media campaign, as he alleges that Barron was like, you got to go on Rogan, you got to make appearances in all these podcasts, when Kamala just went on Call Her Daddy, which gets just a fraction of what these other ones did. And you could make the case that that was maybe part of the thing that turned the election. Yeah. But they listened to the young kid. I mean, extreme. He was like a 17, 18, but hey, it worked. Another concern I have about this, and I'm so glad you're here to chat with us about this, John, is about the AI element of this, right? Because I know you've talked about publicly about how AI is kind of reshaping creativity right now. And with giant media companies merging, do you think this type of consolidation will accelerate the push toward AI-assisted productions? Like going forward?
Absolutely.
Like, how do you think that's going to play out? Yeah.
I mean,
and that's not good.
It is not good. I think what it'll do is it'll accelerate the pressure to bring down movie budgets, which everyone kind of agrees probably need to come down given the economics of theater going and television. Right. I think David Ellison has been very pro AI in terms of like, oh, we want to use AI. We want to be on the cutting edge. So I think that if Paramount buys Warner Brothers, that's just more playing around with AI and Batman and the DC properties and all that kind of stuff. Yes, it will accelerate. It'll accelerate AI. I mean, the studios are already trying so hard to fit AI into everything. I don't think that they really have a good idea for how to do it. And I think the problem again is listen to the filmmakers. There are ways to use AI that are useful, certain types of AI. If you can figure out an ethical way to kind of compensate people for the fact that all their work just got zoomed up into these models, theoretically you could pay people for that, or legally you should. But there are ways that you could, again, I think James Cameron just gave this really good interview where he talked about it. He's like, it should be something that enables and allows filmmakers to make ambitious films that are really cool. What I fear is if it's put in the hands of a very consolidated corporation, it just becomes a reason to cut budgets, make things look the same. Like, the last thing you want is a studio to become a spewer of AI slop. I think AI slop is a non-competitive advantage. We can all do it at home now. We can burn OpenAI's money with Sora 2 and make Mario, jumping hoops over Michael Jordan. That's not special. That's not going to get me to tune in, go to a movie theater. You need to differentiate. And I think the more diversity there is in the studio space, the more people you get trying to do different things, and the more hits and the more good films will overall get generated. I think AI is a little bit of, it's kind of like meth, right? It gets you high right away, really fast. But I think there's a crash coming in that regards, and I think we're all going to suffer for it. So, yeah, I fear that. I fear that becomes just like an excuse to kind of like shove AI unthoughtfully, unintelligently down filmmakers' throats, as opposed to figuring out what it's actually good for. And again, I'm not talking Gen AI I think Gen AI is what it is. It's basically like, another app that people can just like generate random videos and watch it. I think that is just not the business of movie studios. They need to differentiate. They're never going to beat OpenAI at OpenAI's game. They need to beat them at Hollywood's game.
Part of me thinks like there's got to be a good way to incorporate AI that doesn't completely dismantle the film industry. And this just had a thought. Maybe you can pitch this to your billionaire friend. What if we started a video platform? Not like necessarily YouTube, but it's a platform and people can use AI. Because like, here's the thing. Video tools to create high production stuff has never been easier. I've got an FX3 at home and a kit. I could produce a pretty high quality piece of cinema on my own with my knucklehead friends if I really wanted to. So could there be an argument that maybe AI, if we figure out the right ways to use it, can actually empower creativity in smaller filmmakers? And maybe we just need a different distribution platform where these smaller filmmakers can see their work, or people can see their work like these studios can, and then they can more easily buy it from these people. Then you're giving more people chances from a creative forum, and you're opening the access to different ideas. Is maybe that the next evolution of the film industry. It's more smaller creators doing crazy things, and they're going to get, it's kind of like the Shakespeare monkey typing thing. You give a bunch of monkeys typewriters, eventually one of them is going to type you Shakespeare. Could it be like that?
God.
Let's just give everybody access?
By the way,
Or is that just
that
chaos?
is one of the great misunderstandings of statistics, that if you put 10,000 monkeys in a room in a million years, you're going to get Hamlet. I actually doubt. I would take the opposite side of that bet.
Yeah.
I think you'll get a lot of shit thrown at pages. Listen, there is absolutely a way for AI to empower indie filmmakers. Again, I don't know that a new distribution platform will do what. I don't think it'll end in that result. I think what it'll do is it'll just increase. Like, listen, that's what Sora 2 is. That's what OpenAI's game is. They want to figure out what is the price point at which they can unleash their own app, get everyone hooked and addicted to watching AI videos. That's just another form of social media that competes with Hollywood. I don't think that's what Hollywood does best. I think to be a filmmaker, to make movies and tell stories, you need other human beings. If you can hire actors and fellow artists and friends, like your collective intelligence as filmmakers, the person who does the sound, the person who edits the film, the person who the actors, the writers of the script, like they all work in tandem. It is all their points of views and that push and pull that comes up with Chinatown or that comes up with Star Wars. I think that if I'm a young filmmaker, as cool as it is to kind of play with these tools, I worry that you just end up becoming a what's the word? An avatar for the AI. You become an output thing for the AI algorithm. Because again, what you're doing is you're prompting stuff that's already been made. It's kind of giving you something that is derived from something else. Whereas if you want to make a movie, why do you want to make a movie? You have something to say. You have a world you want to see. You have a story you're excited to tell. Like that excitement, that weirdness, that out of distribution eccentricity is what makes movies good. Like a lot of those movies in the 70s, like they were not, quote, well-made films according to the studio standards of the day. They were wrong. They made mistakes, but they were alive. They were interesting. They were something different. AI doesn't allow you to make those mistakes. You know, AI will guide you on that very straight and narrow path. So if you can use AI techniques, and by that I mean like neural nets, to help you do something that would otherwise be impossible, like a really cool visual effects stunt.
Like a scene or visual effects.
A scene.
Right.
A scene,
That's
yes.
more what I'm saying.
Then you can do things as an indie filmmaker with actors, with other artisans who are using it. You can do things that you couldn't do before. And yes, then maybe we have an opportunity to see some really cool stuff. In terms of making a social media app, unfortunately, I think the problem has never been the creation of content. Like everyone creates content now. Like you can go create content, throw it on YouTube. It's discovering it. It's like elevating voices. And I know we love to knock the gatekeepers. And I argued 20 minutes ago that the gatekeepers are too old. We need new gatekeepers. I think what we need curators, people who say, hey, find this. This is kind of interesting. This is cool. You know, critics, as much as everyone in Hollywood annoys them, they do serve a purpose. They help you think about who's trying to do something interesting. So I think it's more that we need methods that elevate the content that is already being made. Trust me, there's as screwed as Hollywood feels right now, there's no shortage of people making films, like taking every risk in their life, putting it all on credit cards and making those movies. And some of those movies are amazing, but they're not being seen.
Yeah.
They're not having a chance to survive. And that's what we need to figure out, is we need to figure out that pipeline, that system that elevates people. And that unfortunately can't be, I don't think it should be completely outsourced to an algorithm. I think an algorithm just gives you more of the same. Any algorithm that tells you exactly what you want to hear is going to bore you at a certain point. So to me, that is the problem, is like, how do you let young filmmakers be found?
Right, and I think that's kind of what I mean. It's like, could you start a platform that's like, listen, this is like, if I was a studio, I would start this platform to give these emerging filmmakers a chance to put their thing up there, a place it can be displayed, and then let the audience kind of decide whether it's good or not. And then if it's good, then you can buy it from them. You can buy the script. You can remake it into a bigger budget film because you've got this proof of concept. And I think it's, just finding ways for everyday creators to be exposed to the big dogs so that these new ideas can, in fact, be championed by somebody, and especially bigger money that will make them into these big features that we are desiring and that we're just not getting enough of. We're just seeing the live action movie of Moana or Mona or whatever. The movie was like 10 years ago. I don't need a live action version of it, and I don't care. Stop putting The Rock in stuff. So I don't know. There's an answer in there. Hopefully between you and one of your billionaire buddies, you'll figure it out, because we need to.
Listen, all you need is a billionaire. All you need is a billionaire, man. They got one. Just one. Just gotta get a bill. Just gotta get a bill. But we're certainly glad there's people like you out there, John, that are exposing the truth of what's going on in the industry and championing for a better way to go about showcasing people's creative endeavors and ideas, because that is an incredibly important thing in our society. And we're just so happy that we're able to have you back on the show to chat about it. I could talk to you all day, but unfortunately our time is running short here, and I've been going for 3 hours, so I need a nap. But John, such a pleasure to have you on. And before we let you go, I'm sure, just like last time, you've gained some new fans from our audience. If they're looking to learn more about you, what you're writing, what you're up to, what's the best place I can send them? I guess still X whenever I go on it. At J. Edgar Lopez is my Twitter/X handle. And I have my new article coming out in the Hollywood Reporter. If you want to support print media, it's actually going to get printed in a physical copy of the Hollywood Reporter, so you can read it in this week's or the upcoming issue. So take a gander, go to a newsstand if they still exist, buy one. I'm sure they'll put it online at some point.
I love it, John. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It's always a blast getting to talk shop, and we hope to have you back again real soon. And enjoy your holiday season, my friend. Happy Turkey Day to you and yours.
I will. I'm gonna go see some movies. Everyone else should too.
Nice. I love to hear it. Well, thank you, John. It's always a pleasure. We'll see you next time. And we're going to take a quick break here at the Blockchain Report. We'll be back with more right after this. Are you interested in effortlessly growing your Bitcoin portfolio? I sure am. And the Bitcoin credit card by Gemini earns you Bitcoin back on every purchase. You can use it like any credit card. Buy lunch, gas, or your weekly groceries, and you'll earn up to 4% back instantly in Bitcoin or one of over 50 other cryptos straight to your account. All that with no annual fee. And right now, you can grab a $200 Bitcoin welcome bonus. It's the easiest way to start building your Bitcoin stack. Just go to Gemini.com to learn more. All right, welcome back to the Blockchain Report. We got a treat for you boys and girls this morning for our deep dive today. Our first guest is an absolute powerhouse whose career runs on equal parts hustle and vision. She's launched startups, onboarded thousands into Bitcoin, advised at the biggest conferences, and is even helping merge Bitcoin with the high-octane world of motorsports. From Venezuela to Miami to the global stage, she's proving that resilience and innovation can change the entire industry. Let's give a big Blockchain Report welcome to Annalise Falchuk, everybody. Annalise, welcome to the show. Our audience, and we are super excited to have you. How are you this Friday?
Thank you so much. That's a great introduction. I'm hyped.
All right, that's what we're looking for. Love
it. Yes.
Great. So, Annalise, we're super pumped to have you on the show today. And you have had a very interesting and unique background. So, you grew up in Venezuela during hyperinflation when the Bolivar turned into monopoly money. How much did living through that chaos push you toward Bitcoin as a real solution and not just a theory?
Well, definitely growing up in Venezuela in hyperinflation was you either had two mindsets to build at that time. You either build resilience and become the person that has the most hope for the world to become better and do something good for the world wherever you go, or you stay and then, you just accept the situation. So I guess my family, myself, we choose, persevere, be in hope, and build a life that builds legacy. And that's why I'm working in Bitcoin.
Amazing. And you've done a lot. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurial programs from Miami to the Holt Prize. Like, did any of those aha moments make you realize that Bitcoin wasn't just another startup gimmick, but like something that could actually change people's lives? Or what was that process like for you?
Well, definitely, I found Bitcoin where when I was ready to jump into doing something that impacts for the world. I came from a background of studied on social entrepreneurship and studying big problems in the world that are happening, from the food supply chain to the economy, and fashion industry. Those were my three main problems that I was passionate about. I tried solving a problem for the fashion industry by recycling polyester materials, garments, hosting swap party clothing for people to just swap party. So we prevent them to go to landfills. That was my first model for like, I want to save the world. My second one was on the food industry. I was like, I want to help as many restaurants as possible to, recycle their food by selling them online. And so we increase their sales and they don't have to also like garbage of these food. And we help that aspect of the food supply chain. And that was one of my businesses in Miami. And then I jumped into Bitcoin. I was like, okay, hold on. If I want to achieve financial freedom for myself and for my generation, this is the way. Like, Bitcoin is the right technology for me to be an entrepreneur, for work for this industry and build something meaningful and impactful that will last a long time. I understood we were very early at the moment, but I would say I validate the market when I launched a payment processor in Miami. And hey, people didn't know much about what Bitcoin was, but they were open to learn it. And that was, for me, as like, okay, this is the beginning and this is where we are. And that was 4 years ago. And look where we are today.
That's right. Yeah. And what was the beginning like for you? How did you actually get introduced into what Bitcoin was? Was it a friend of a friend? Did you see a TikTok video? Like, what was your introduction to the space like?
Well, to Bitcoin as an investment through my mom, because she would invest using Coinbase and she would literally sit down at dinner and say, oh, look, I invested in this the other day and it went up and it went up with my Bitcoin, it went up with this. And she would be like, I'm doing investments. I'm like, and then I see my mom talking to my brother-in-law about the Bitcoin going up. And I'm like, okay, I need to be part of this conversation. And literally, just right in that moment, I was hosting events for my clients that I was helping in the restaurant industry in Miami. And that's where I got introduced to the Bitcoin industry, is when I met the CEO of iBets. And he came from El Salvador. And they were like, we're ready to launch a payment processor to the Miami market. Can you help us? And I was like, their perfect fit profile to launch this platform, because I have all these connections with restaurants in Miami. And they were like, you are perfect. And you already know Bitcoin because you're from Venezuela. And we discussed Bitcoin. I'm like, oh yeah, my mom invested. And they were like, listen, we will teach you, we will educate you. If you want to jump into the like more deepness of Bitcoin, we'll give you books. We will make sure that you secure your Bitcoin if you invest on it. Like, working on a company and in the space got me involved in just more than the Bitcoin investment. And I understood there's an industry, there's a space, there's opportunity for building solutions too. And that's where I first got introduced to a full scope of everything Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that seems kind of like the perfect marriage at the perfect time. You got on the Bitcoin train right as it was starting to chug along there. And what was it about Bitcoin that to you was just so undeniable that you were like, you know what, I need to make sure I'm making this part of my future?
I think there's something about Bitcoin that I love, is the innovation aspect of it and the opportunity, meaning there's a lot to create and a lot to innovate. And it's not just being a marketing company, it's not just being a payment processor. There's more to it. And I think I love a space that allows people to come in with new ideas, innovation, and become their own entrepreneurs within a technology that is giving them back value at the end of the day. When you go to sleep, you know you're working for something that is giving you value. So I think that's something that really excites me the most, like, is the technology, the innovation, the aspect that you can be an entrepreneur, and that you can also integrate Bitcoin in different aspects of your life. And if you have a traditional business, you can integrate Bitcoin into it. And now you become part of the Bitcoin industry, but you still run in a traditional business. Like, there's many ways to get Bitcoin involved in your business, in your life. And that's definitely something that fascinates me. And overall, the community also, like everyone I've met in the Bitcoin industry, somehow we share a lot of similar values, and we also share like long-term life dreams. So sometimes we talk, let's talk about 10 years from now. Where do you see yourself? And I see myself in the farm doing triathlons and having my horse and cooking my own food and cultivate it. And then I realize some Bitcoiners have kind of the same vibes and my like values, that is what they want for their life. And so feels like we're all working for a long-term vision for our personal lives, but we're all collaborating to get there. So definitely that's also something that is being impacting my life and keeps me going.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, especially, it seems like Bitcoin certainly seems to resonate with people that are interested in entrepreneurship like yourself, right? There's the freedom aspect, the innovation aspect, and there's the hard work aspect that seems to kind of go across the board for people of that particular ilk. And like you said, the community aspect. It's like we're all these people building things, and while we're all in our own single like silos, we're all doing this together. We're all kind of fighting for the same cause. So that makes a lot of sense. And I want to talk a little bit about one of your entrepreneurial endeavors, and that's called Felipa.io. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Felipa, thank you. Yeah, since it's Friday.
That's correct.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, of course. Felipa was born in 2024 when I asked myself, really, like, I've been asking myself why there's so many little women in the Bitcoin space, where I'm like, but why, right? And then, I'm observing, and I'm a marketing analyst. I love doing market research. And I just found that, the way that Bitcoin is being communicated to the world is very, it was back in the days more technical than something that resonates with emotions and philosophy. Then philosophical theories came to life, but still, like, all the branding, all the messaging, still very, like, I don't know, not super feminine. And so there's no way we're attracting women to the space. And the women that are attracted is because, it's like me, family, it's like the boyfriend, it's like the friends, like you get referred. But for you to get involved on your own, it's kind of like feels intimidated. So I was like,
Sure.
I want to become a platform that really understands women's psychology of money and help them go through from point zero to point 100 in their financial freedom journey. And in order to get them to invest in Bitcoin, or to get them into empowering them to become financial, like little or achieve financial freedom, which I'm still in that journey. Like, I'm not in 100%. I'm still like in the 20. But I was like, there's a need for a tool that can help me understand what's my personality with money, what's my psychological traits, what makes me excited about money, what doesn't. And also, like, in order to invest in Bitcoin, you need to know how much available you have to invest in Bitcoin every day, every month. Like I had to make my math. And today I invest in Bitcoin every day, but I had to make my math. And in order to get there, I have to sit down and do my math. So not every woman would sit down and do their math. So basically, we help women get to that point where they feel confident and empowered to understand their money, build a relationship with their money, so then they can make better financial decisions. And one of those financial decisions is they can invest in Bitcoin. So that's what Felipa is today. It has become an AI agent. And we're still in MVP process, and we're still validating hypotheses, and we're learning from our community what is it that people really need. But the more we get out there, the more we do community events, and I talk to women. This is becoming a great platform for women to, find themselves in a journey of, okay, I can get started to build financial freedom here. And so that's what Felipa is about.
I love that. And that makes so much sense, because oftentimes financial things seem very inaccessible to people that maybe didn't grow up with it or weren't taught it. Especially, the United States, for instance, does not do a good job of teaching anybody anything about finances growing up. You really have to kind of go out on your own to learn it. And especially if it's not something you see, the world isn't shown through a lens that you understand or you identify with. So that seems like a really worthwhile endeavor that allows people to understand the systems better by showing it through a lens that resonates with them. I had a friend who created something called The Skim years ago, which was a newsletter that kind of related to women, and it took off because women identified with the format they were using rather than what was out there. So I think that's an amazing idea. But my question is, everybody downloads finance apps at one point or another and then ends up ghosting them a week later. I'm certainly guilty of it before. How do you actually get people to stick with these new habits that you're trying to help them build, especially when, Bitcoin rewards patience and not instant gratification, which is something we've really become used to in today's world with our TikToks and our algorithms? Like, how do you plan on building that patience and that and getting people to actually stick and use that app over time?
Yeah, that's an amazing question, because it's definitely the biggest challenge that any financial technology app faces. So in our case, we are building nudges of psychological things that helps people feel empowered and create happiness. Let's say, right? One things that we do is we send reminders of their financial goals. And so we focus on positive reinforcement rather than telling you, oh, you spent this much money, so you have less money now. No. We focus on, hey, remember that your goal is to invest in Bitcoin at the end of the month, this much. You're closer to that goal if you keep saving, if you keep managing your money this way. We also So it's more focused on positive reinforcement. And also we do provide money affirmations. And these are reminders that what you nourish your mind about, it becomes your reality. So if you wake up and you tell the universe, I'm gonna be invested in Bitcoin by the end of the month and I'm closer to this goal, that's an affirmation. And believe it or not, that affects your psychological life, and then it becomes something that then you start acting on it. So we're basically helping people become aware of their thoughts and giving them a solution for what they should be thinking, or what are those beliefs that they should be reminding themselves. So then by consequence, their actions are going to align with it at the end of the day. So that is something that we have identified that's helpful for our users. And then of course, that's where we're sticking with it right now. The more we learn, the more we're open to evolve and find solutions that stick to people as well. Something that is coming up soon is we're definitely helping people invest in Bitcoin. So having affiliates, we're having affiliates programs where we can recommend to any app of their preferences. So if they love Cash App, like I do, if they love Gemini, if they love like whichever they prefer, that's where we take them into that journey. So it's not they don't feel alone doing this. They feel like they have an accountable partner that is helping them going through the process, and that changed the game.
Yeah, that sounds like it. I really love your approach to human psychology and how this relates to people's finances and Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is such an interesting experiment in human psychology in and of itself, right? The way the market moves, sentiment. How did you come up with this idea? Because it sounds really unique to include this human psychology element into the Felipa.io platform.
Well, it was a personal frustration I had with myself. Really, the story is I wanted to invest more in Bitcoin and I needed to know how much I need more accurately. So I went through a process of financial tools, budgeting tools, financial advisor, and it took a long time to get organized and to get clarity on everything. And I was like, this is such a long process, and I'm doing it because I'm motivated for the outcome, right? But however, this could be something that I will bounce quickly if I was not as motivated as I am. But I'm like, I wonder who else around me has done this before, as going through the same frustration I'm going through. And talking to all my girlfriends in Miami, that's where I found there was an opportunity for to build something like this, because all my girlfriends were, oh yeah, the last time I tracked my finances was probably a year ago, and I haven't done it because it's frustrating. The systems are not working for me. They're all like focusing on the negative side of things, how much I spend. They're not positive reinforcement. They don't teach me really what to do after. Like, yeah, I spend this much, but what happened after? And many things I just listen, I just listen. I'm like, okay, there is an issue and current existing solutions. If I build a solution, yeah, it will probably take long, but I think I'm capable, and I have a huge audience around me that I can serve. And at the end of the day, integrating this audience into Bitcoin will be like powerful movement. So why not getting us started it? So that's why I loved being the person who is like integrating the women into the Bitcoin as a movement that comes from, hey, we help you with your psychology of money. So you build a better relationship with money, you gain confidence, you feel empowered, and then you can learn things like Bitcoin. You can do things like Bitcoin because now you're more integrated into those kind of conversations too. So it's more about, I just sit down with a room of girls and nobody talks much about money as when I sit down in a room of guys. And I've been in both. And that's where I found opportunity.
That's amazing. And speaking of money, you raised, I believe it was $50,000 in seed money for Felipa, right? And my question regards to that is, were you pitching, or how were you pitching Bitcoin during that raise? Was it the core of your mission, or is it kind of a silent engine in the background of this new, financial tool?
It was my vision. It was my vision as a feature on my platform. As of today, we operate as like we provide the education aspect of it, and we provide the guidance to onboard people into platforms that it's not us. I don't see us being the platform who, people can go and buy Bitcoin. We see us the platform that we direct people to a marketplace of all Bitcoin platforms that they can go and select which one they want to be part of. Because the platforms that already exist are amazing. Like, I don't want to reinvent, or I don't want to become another Cash App or another Gemini. I think I'd rather working with Cash App and Gemini to collaborate and bring them more users that at the end of the day, they are going to offer them the best service to invest in Bitcoin. So I can be focused on my side of things, where it's like more helping them overcome that chasm of building a better relationship with their money, so then they can invest in Bitcoin.
Very cool. Well, it seems like it's going pretty well. I think I read that you've onboarded more than 3,000 people into Bitcoin. So I always like to know, as someone who has orange pilled so many, do you have like a favorite conversion story, like a moment where you saw someone go from this is a scam to this is actually freedom?
Well, yes, many. Back in 2022, when I started onboarding restaurants in Miami into Bitcoin, many of them were hesitant. Many of them were like, but I'm accepting Bitcoin, but where is this Bitcoin going, right? Many questions because
Right.
they didn't know where these Bitcoin were gonna go. But we, of course, had a plan for them. We were saying your Bitcoin is going to go to this account, and from this account, it gets deposited to your Bitcoin address. But they were all questioning, but what is a Bitcoin address? What do you mean with this? So it was very interesting to see how people were curious to learn, but they really don't know nothing. And I had to build this Bitcoin mini book to teach all my merchants about Bitcoin and accepting Bitcoin as a payment and what does this means. But yeah, my funny story is like, these people started seeing me as like their Bitcoin advisor. And like people would grab my number, and anything that they had questions about Bitcoin, I got started receiving people calling me. And this is like, oh, this is my iBets client. But then now they're calling me to ask me about their Bitcoin address, that they receive a message, a random anything that will be like calling me. I'm like, whoa, like this is funny. Like I was like, now I'm their Bitcoin advisor. So definitely I had many stories, and also like people will be happy when they started accepting Bitcoin. The system will work good for them. They would see how easy it is to like transact Bitcoin, and then they would look at their wallet, they have it, and they were like, now I get it. So I learned that giving people the real experience with Bitcoin is what really is going to help them understand Bitcoin. And then after this, I would say, it was funny when I had to set up my parents with their wallets and send my dad Bitcoin. And it was like I became like the Bitcoin girl in Miami everywhere. And a funny story is then I started going to farms with my job, and I started onboarding farmers and ranchers into Bitcoin. And I onboarded around 40 ranchers from Colorado, Georgia, Texas, San Diego, Nashville. And these were people that they were like, I'm ready to accept Bitcoin. They didn't know nothing, but they were very into it also. And again, the process of onboarding them into Bitcoin was very like nourishing, but also like very thoughtful. Like everyone has their questions, everyone wanted to know how the accountability works, the taxes works. Like, it's for their businesses, this was a more complex operation to install than just accepting him as a personal operation. So I just found fascinating that I was able to, integrate a new operation and technology to these businesses that actually was adding real value to their business, reducing transaction fees, therefore saving them more money or helping them make more money, and overall get them introduced to a new market audience. Because when we onboard the ranchers, then we launch campaigns to announce that these ranchers were accepting Bitcoin. And guess what? People started buying from them and paying them in Bitcoin. Wow. So we opened for them a new target audience too. So overall, my experiences has been very, how do you say, like very prosper. Like everyone has prospered in their ways. Yeah. And then, from there, I went into media. I stopped onboarding people into payments, and that's another story. So.
And we're going to get into that one in just a minute. But I do love the idea of paying for sweet corn with Bitcoin. So I appreciate your efforts. That makes my life a lot easier. And so you brought all of these skills in learning how to onboard people onto Bitcoin. What do you think was the hardest part? Is it convincing people that they should consider Bitcoin, or is the actual onboarding process with like how they go about doing it, setting up a wallet? Was that a bigger challenge for like a lot of these farmers? Or because it sounds like they were pretty open to the idea right at the jump, they just needed someone to kind of hold their hand along the way. Is that accurate?
Yes, it was a mix of both. It was a mix of what is Bitcoin, how it works, why is Bitcoin different from the fiat monetary system. So I always like to look at like the comparison of the system, like give people or business operators a perspective of this system versus this system, and this give them understanding of the model. And then now it's like, okay, and now accepting Bitcoin as a payment, what are my benefits? So it's like a traditional payment processor versus a Bitcoin payment processors. What are the differences? How each of them work, and educate them in that technology was key for their onboarding process. And then I teach them how it will work, the process of accepting Bitcoin, getting paid, securing your Bitcoin, and anything else from, and then how on the customer side of things, what do they need to get to pay you in Bitcoin? What are they doing to pay you in Bitcoin? So it was definitely a full onboarding process with education, coming up from monetary system to payment processing system, and then how it works.
We were talking about you. You recently joined the Roxom team. You're bringing all of your insight, expertise, and experience to orange pilling the world through media and marketing endeavors. Tell us a little bit about that. What are you doing? What are you hoping to achieve here? We want to learn more.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm so pumped to be part of the RoxomTV team. It's an amazing company culture. You guys are doing an amazing job. Well, we're all doing. I love to create, and I love to be part of the best media for Bitcoin. And on my role, I'm basically, overseeing everything that right now it's happening in Roxom in terms of content, and also in terms of industry. And my goal is to help our social medias become top number one and in the Bitcoin industry. And I'm here to win. So it comes from different ways and angles that we need to come out and say and get there. But one thing I would say is that, one, we create amazing content, and everyone knows about RoxomTV. So I know that getting there, it's going to be just a matter of persistent. We already have the team, the dream team. We already have the content. We already have the connections, and everyone is having eyes on us. So I'm very excited to get us to be top one on these channels, on Instagram and TikTok specifically. And of course, like integrating and innovating, right? We want to integrate new ideas. We want to create collaborations with people out there. We want them to look at RoxomTV as their platform that they can come and create with us too. So we're definitely looking forward to become the platform of collaboration. This is not just news. This is not just about Bitcoin only highlights and breaking news. This is also a platform for other people to share their stories like this one, to share and promote any event or conferences that we want to support too. And, definitely looking forward having more people joining us on socials as well. But yeah, that's where I'm here for. And so far, we are coming up with new ideas. We are definitely going through a moment where we are innovating and thinking what is going to make us succeed and become the top one. So let's go.
Let's go is right. Now, Annalise, now you've been in this space now, you said, for about 4 or 5 years. You've seen a lot, you've orange pilled a lot of people. Now, Bitcoin's whole cycle thing, everyone seems to have a little bit of its own flavor as Bitcoin matures, and this Bitcoin journey has continued now for the last 15, 16 years. I remember back during the COVID times, it felt like Bitcoin was very well communicated through people just yelling at me through their TikTok and Instagram pages. Has that shifted at all? And like, what do you think is the best way right now to educate, inform, and eventually orange pill the next generation of Bitcoiners? How do you approach that as you're using the social media? What do you think is the secret sauce right now from your expertise and and experience?
Yeah, well, I would love to share all the secret sauces. However, I'm like, okay, let's keep some for just the RoxomTV team.
Yeah, that's
But
fair. That's fair.
definitely, so English is my second language, right? And there's something I learned by becoming a native second language speaker, which is simplicity and less is more, and also back to first principles. So we are always educating people that probably need to hear again what is Bitcoin. So back to first principles, rules to where what is Bitcoin? How does it work? Where is it? Like reminding people of the simple things, like when is gonna be the last Bitcoin mined? Why is Bitcoin mined? What is a Sats? Why Sats and Bitcoin are different? What is the different? Like there's a lot of terms that we still need to go step back and remind ourselves that there's, if we want the newbies to come in and learn, they need to learn from the first principles from the beginning. So definitely keeping in mind of a beginner is key to succeed in social media, because the people who knows Bitcoin is it's more, is like less than the entire population, right? So we want to go and expand ourselves. So we got to go to first principles, and also less is more, simplicity. And as I say, make it friendly. Don't be too technical. Don't be too complex. Don't make it negative. Make it friendly. Make it engaging. Make it easy to understand. Like, so I guess that those are my secret sauces. And of course, give people, which is something we have been doing. Yeah, you know that Bitcoin is it's has its different parts. It's moving in different ways. It's moving around legacy and governmental conversations. It's also in technology. It's also in developers. It's also entrepreneurship. It's also marketing. Like Bitcoin is happening right now everywhere. So give people a full spectrum of, okay, Bitcoin is not just this technology. It's not just this investment. It's in a conversation in many rooms. It's going to help people understand that it's a holistic movement nowadays. And so that's definitely part of how we're approaching bringing people into others people's ears. And we always have to be innovating. I would say, you know, going back to first principles always tells me and reminds me that sometimes Bitcoiners have our own slogans and our own quotes and our own internal jokes. I'm like, well, those jokes we would have to innovate them too, because if we want other people to learn them, we gotta like open up ourselves. So I'm very much a person that likes to bring new people into Bitcoin. So that's where I sit. In that chair, like I'm always looking at what is it the new people needs to hear, and that will help them understand or grab them into learn more, rather than what else we can build on the Bitcoin industry to make it more exciting for those that are already excited. So yes.
And, you know, here's a question for you. As someone who has onboarded a lot of people into the orange pill theory, Do you feel like it's more important to the Bitcoin space that we are kind of converting the older guard, the boomers, and getting them to understand Bitcoin? Or are you've talked about empowering Gen Zs to get, achieving their own financial freedom. Is it more important that we're focusing maybe on that generation? I mean, there's about to be this huge wealth transfer from the boomers to the millennials, to the Gen Xers, Zers, whatever. So is it important that we're starting this early and often for this younger generation? Because ultimately they're going to be the ones who have all the money to put into Bitcoin eventually and, hopefully their own, financial futures. So who do you think is really the target audience now? Is it this younger emerging crop, or do we need to get our boomer parents on board too and, get them aboard the orange train?
Definitely the young generation. We are the ones that are gonna be living and breathing the economic changes that are about to happen. We are the ones that are having jobs. We're the ones making money. We're the ones building companies. We're the ones that are gonna innovate. We're the ones using AI nowadays. Gen Z are our most important target audience, and we need to be more strategic and smart at approaching them in ways they like to be approached. And we gotta study their behaviors, and we gotta study what they do and what they like, and so how they would like to be taught about Bitcoin. And I do believe Gen Z is the generation that we actually need to give them the opportunity to work in this space. We need to reward them in a good way. They're the ones that wants to work, are motivated to build financial freedom and to build a life. Like Gen Z, it's not easy for us to buy a home nowadays, like it was for our parents that were our age. So we're definitely more motivated to invest our money or to learn how we can achieve financial freedom than what our parents were in the past. And I do feel like it's not that we don't want to relate to the boomers, but boomers have already made their money. They already lived their life. And if they think about Bitcoin, it's probably more of a game theory for them. For us, this is like real. Like there's no, like we have to do it. Like otherwise, how can we overcome, right? Like the economic impact that can exist to us in any situations. So I think Gen Z are the most important audience.
Yeah, and what do you feel has been like the most effective way to communicate with that audience? Like the crypto space has a lot of interesting elements to it that you don't see in traditional finance. Like there's a humor to it, there's the memes. Do you find that Gen Z responds better to speaking to them like that? They like the funny memes, or is it better to communicate how important Bitcoin is if they ever want to, I don't know, own a home, for instance? Do you kind of have to instill fear in them, or is it about communicating with them on that level where they're actually paying attention, like through memes and whatnot?
I think we have to bring Bitcoin as like, hey, like this is gonna be part of your life as cash and money has been part of life of many people, and right, it's like we gotta create more analogies to like what is Bitcoin and what was another technology 10 years ago that started like Bitcoin and became the today's of the day, right? Like I think using analogies of what is Bitcoin in other scenarios, it's helpful. I also think that we gotta do more like math and expose those math calculations to people. Like, hey, if you invest in Bitcoin, this $25 every day is 750 a month. Just think about it. You're putting 750 a month for your Bitcoin account, which you can consider that your savings account, in which it had a probability to go to earn a yield reward of this much, because in history, Bitcoin has grew to this. So imagine your Bitcoin today in 10 years from now, it could be even more than a yield account, right? So I think relating with people with like let's do the math. Let's see what can Bitcoin do for you if you start now. And Gen Z, we are in the 19 to 25 years old, or to 26 years old. We're in the perfect age to get started on building that wealth for ourselves in 10 years from now. So I think, and then because in 10 years from now, when you're 20, that's when you think about buying a house, when you get to 30s. So maybe Bitcoin gives you that opportunity. So I think it's also like now, sharing the narrative that Bitcoin can help that vehicle for Gen Z to achieve their life goals, and creating those analogies and providing that calculation. It's helpful. It's helpful. I do it for myself. I do it for my friends, and I can see change completely, the way they see Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, the analogies and the storytelling are all, I think, an incredibly important part of getting people to buy into what Bitcoin is all about. And you just need that initial buy-in so that they do their own homework and realize how good it will be for them in their future. But Gen Z is an interesting one, right? Because Gen Z has grown up with a lot of immediate gratification. Amazon, Netflix, they can watch what they watch when they want it. They can buy what they want when they want it. And Bitcoin is something that kind of requires patience and rewards patience. So how do you communicate that to a generation that's used to getting everything right when they want it? Like how do you say, hey, this thing will reward you, but it takes time, when they're so used to getting everything they want on their own time? How do you communicate that to them?
Yeah, and I would say that's our biggest challenge. I face it myself, so I relate to every other Gen Z listening out there. That yes, it's so easy to have $100 in your bank account or 1,000 and spend it right in one sit in 20 minutes online. And also, we live in this world that is marketing for us all the time, and we're trying to
Right.
build lifestyles for ourselves that we think it can happen from one day to the other. And yeah, it's definitely the biggest challenge is overcoming the instant gratification, to long-term mindset and build resilience and patience. What have worked for me, and this is something I would share, is investing in Bitcoin tiny amounts every day consistently. Is automatically, it's something that would allow me to just think that, oh, instead of buying a coffee every day, I'm investing in Bitcoin every day. So I just have that going as like my spending every day is Bitcoin first. And then after is if I do any other purchase, but I already invested in Bitcoin at 6 a.m. in the morning. And it's tiny amounts that they're not affecting me. They're not giving me any stress or, but at the end of the day, where I see at the end of the month is like, oh, I achieved this much investment in Bitcoin at the end of the month because I invested in tiny amounts every day. So focusing on compound growth is what I would recommend to Gen Z to start with. Don't try to invest bigger amounts because you're just starting to make money, or you're figuring out your life still. You probably don't know what you want to do for work, and it's okay. And you're probably spending your money on travels and experiences because that's the age to do so. And at least that's what people say. And I think it's fine to leave, to want to leave. I think everyone should experience and have that, but don't get yourself trapped into, because you're doing that, then you cannot invest yet. I think tiny amounts can help you create compound growth. And I would recommend that. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a Bitcoin advisor, but this is just a personal sharing that this is what I do for myself. And I hope this also helps to others.
Yeah, I think dollar cost averaging what you can afford right now, and then as those those things compound over time. You start seeing that number grow, and then it kind of becomes a game, and then it's kind of you're orange pilling yourself a little bit as you get further and further down that rabbit hole. So no, that makes a lot of sense, Annalise. So our time is running a little short today, but before we let you go, here's a game we're going to play. We play with all of our guests, okay? This has been a very interesting year for Bitcoin, as we know. 2025 is coming to a close. We're almost in Q4. We're taking all of our guests and we are having them give us their price prediction for Bitcoin by the end of 2025, and the winner is getting a Patagonia jacket sent to him. So tell me, what do you think? Based on where we are right now, I think it's around 110. Give me your Price is Right figure. Where do you think Bitcoin's going to be at the end of this year?
I think Bitcoin is going to be at 210.
210. All right, put it on the board, gang. 210. All right, so if we got you on 210, we have a board. We're creating it. We'll send you that Patagonia if you get it right. But before we let you go, Annalise, one more time, I'm sure there's plenty of people in our audience that are like, I like the cut of this lady's jib. I want to learn more about her, Philippa.io. What's the best place we can send them so they can learn more about you, what you're up to with Philippa, and what you're doing at Roxom?
Well, definitely my Twitter, it's a great place to connect with me. Anything Bitcoin related, what my jobs in Bitcoin, my projects, my initiatives, work that I get to collaborate with other teams. I share there, I post there. My LinkedIn is also a great source of connection and tracking my progress with all my projects. I like posting there. So those two are my main. And then, check out RoxomTV on Instagram and TikTok and let me know what you like, what you don't like, because that's me behind the scenes. So definitely that's another socials that I would like you to check it out. And if you text RoxomTV, it's me replying in the back.
All right, no bots here. It's Annalise in the flesh texting you back. You heard it here first, gang. Well, Annalise, thank you so much for joining us today. It was an absolute pleasure getting to chat with you, learn about your background and all the amazing tools and skills you're bringing to the team. We're super pumped to have you, and we hope to have you back on the show sometime soon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, have a nice weekend. Thanks. Wish you could grab cash without selling your Bitcoin? Yeah, me too. But hey, that's why Ledden exists. They're the global leader in Bitcoin-backed loans. We're talking over $9 billion issued since 2018 with a perfect record protecting client assets. Now you might be asking, what makes a Ledden loan different? Well, with custodied loans, your collateral, it stays put. They don't go degen and lend it out for yield. There are no credit checks. It funds in under 6 hours. No monthly payments. You can repay anytime with 0 penalties. And for transparency, grown-ups actually want proof of reserves reports every 6 months verified by a top accounting firm. Bottom line is Ledden lets Bitcoin holders unlock liquidity without selling. And you can check them out at ledden.io/RoxomTV. That's LEDN.io/RoxomTV. Whew, well, that wraps up another week here at the Blockchain Report, boys and girls. Thank you so much for tuning in with us each and every day. And if you haven't already, do the thing. Make sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Roxom TV, Roxom TV News, and of course, yours truly at Hank at Roxom TV, wherever you choose to do your online scrolling. And we'll be back next week with more of the same world news and chaos that you have come to love and expect right here on the Blockchain Report. So until then, have a safe and happy weekend, and I will see all of you boys and girls on Monday. See you later.